welcome to MSU Today. I'm Bill Beekman, Vice President and Director of Athletics at Michigan State University, joined by several guests today. First, Todd Edwards, Executive Director of Student Athlete Support Services. Todd, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you having me on.
And we've got a member of the women's tennis team, Caroline Szabo. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, thank you for having me on as well.
Thanks so much for being here. And John Gove from men's track and field. So thanks for joining us, John.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Todd, we have this organization, this group in athletics called Student Athlete Support Services that operates out of the Clara Bell Smith Student Academic Center. So tell us what that encompasses and what you all do.
Well, I'll try to sum that up as concisely as I can, which isn't always easy, but we have a full-time staff of 14 people, including 8 academic coordinators, 2 learning specialists, our director of student athlete development, IT coordinator. We work with our students really, there's a big focus is on academic support, but we really work with our students in a lot of areas that pertain to their life away from their fields of competition. But we do focus heavily on our academic services and academic support, as well as the student athlete development side, with a big focus there on career development and career services. We work on the academic side with assistance in scheduling, with helping manage the university academically, with connecting students to their academic advisors in their various departments and colleges. We work with them on major selection, and again, getting them in touch with the right folks early on. We start out as when they come in as freshmen, trying to assess interest, taking an interest inventory and see what career paths may match up with which academic interests and whatnot, so we can help put them together that way, and then just be there for them, to support them all along the way. Help them in accommodating any misses for team travel that they may have. We always say we're with them from recruitment to graduation and beyond.
That's it really is an extraordinary set of services that your team provides, and each year that culminates in a really extraordinary academic gala. And unfortunately, this year our gala had to be online and remote. But walk us through what we celebrate at that academic gala each year.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we have, this year was our 24th academic gala, and as you mentioned, we were virtual. With it being virtual, I do want to say, and I want to thank Angela Monty. She is our director of student athlete development, and she manages the gala for us each year, regardless of format. She and Nick Baker in Spartan Vision really did a fantastic job in delivering what we thought was as good and as quality event as we could have without actually being there. But what we normally have, like I said, it started in 1998. This was our 24th. Next year, we're very much planning on being in person for our silver anniversary. But each year we recognize excellence in academic performance, in community service, and leadership in various areas. We have our student athlete honor roll. To make that honor roll, students must be in at least their 3rd semester at MSU and have a 3.0 GPA or have had a 3.0 over the last year. This year, we recognize 471 of those students. We also recognize our graduates coming up in that year. And then some of our team and individual awards. We have our Athletic Directors Award, which you present, which goes to our high GPA men's team and women's team. So 2 of those awards. We have our Gwendolyn Norrell Community Service Award. We have our Diversity and Leadership Award, and then our big individual awards that are at the apex and at the end of the ceremony of the night is our President's Award, where we honor our male and female graduating senior with the highest cumulative GPA who's exhausted their eligibility and completed their degree in the current year. This year, for the first time ever, we had 8 recipients, all with perfect 4.0 raw GPAs. And I say raw because, during this pandemic, over the course of the last 3 semesters, so last spring, this fall, this spring, our students had the opportunity to opt for satisfactory, not satisfactory grades. Well, these 8 students, completed their entire academic career here at MSU, perfect natural, I'll say natural instead of raw, natural sounds, perfect natural 4.0 cumulative GPAs, which is just fantastic. I mean, in many years, our top GPAs aren't 4.0s. They're still very, they excel and they're in the high 3.9s or 3.8s or what have you. But to have 8 with a 4.0 is just phenomenal.
Yeah, that is extraordinary. And that brings me to our two student guests on today's program. And so, Caroline, as a person who's really excelled both on the tennis court and academically, tell us, well, first of all, how do you make that work? I remember in my college days, long ago though they may have been, that I'm not sure that any of those that I would have excelled at. So keeping both of those balls in the air is really extraordinary. How do you do that? And well, we'll start there. How do you do that?
Not a lot of sleep. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think it takes, it does take a lot of commitment, personally, but also I think it's just part of kind of the standards that I came into at Michigan State. And, I came in and set a goal for myself to do everything I could to be the best tennis player that I could be. But at the same time, I didn't want to let my academics slip. So I knew that it would take effort, and kind of just every day when I don't feel like necessarily studying or, doing an extra practice problem, I just remembered kind of those goals that I set for myself at the beginning, and just kind of push myself that way.
Well, one of my favorite quotes that we have had hanging up in the indoor practice facility for many years is champions are built on 1,000 invisible mornings. And it's so much the toil and when there aren't fans in the stands, and the extraordinarily hard work and dedication that creates champions. So what are you're a senior this year? What are your plans for the future?
I am starting a job with Dow Chemical in Midland, Michigan, in the middle of June. So I'll be a supply chain specialist with them, which I'm really excited about. It's a great company to work for, and it should be a really good position to kind of learn to be a good supply chain professional. So
at Michigan State has the #1 supply chain program in the country. So you're coming from a great program. For those of us that may not completely understand the concept, how would you define supply chain? What do you learn in the supply chain major?
It's always a tough question, I personally have found, but supply chain it's basically managing kind of every aspect of getting a product from the order, from the customer's order, all the way until that customer receives the product. So there's just so many different parts of it. And every single person with the supply chain role is going to be doing something different. But Michigan State does a really good job of teaching us kind of not only the different roles that you could have, whether it be logistics or purchasing, but also how to manage in different industries. So with some of our classes, we get to dive into the transportation industry or into the technology that helps support supply chain roles. So I think that that's one of the really big benefits of coming from Michigan State is we get such a wide variety of education.
Well, and you think about, just in terms of the concept of supply chain, you think about the auto industry with a dealership model has a certain kind of supply chain. And then you think about maybe the pharmaceutical industry where you have a product with a relatively limited shelf life. And then you think maybe about, on the other hand, the concrete and gravel industry where the supply chain is tied to the location of the product because it's so expensive to move. And all of those things, depending on the depending on the industry, become really, really interesting. So that's a really, really extraordinary major here at Michigan State, and thanks for sharing that with us. So, John, what are your plans? And tell us a little bit about your major and what you hope to accomplish with it.
Yeah, so I majored in horticulture, and then I got a minor in environment and health. So I come from a family farm in Massachusetts. We grow fruits and vegetables. Everything that you'd find at a farmer's market is pretty much what we grow, and all direct consumer. So our supply chain is a little bit smaller than what Caroline's probably going to deal with, but we will deal with Dow Chemical and a couple other places that, we'll probably both be working with. So in that sense, I guess it's a small world. But so yeah, I majored in horticulture here. Initially, when I first came to school and before I came to college, my intentions were to graduate and to go back to the family farm right away. But I took some classes that were outside of my major and got out of my comfort zone a little bit with a couple classes. And I realized that I think I need a couple of years to not live in the same place that I will probably live the rest of my life. Much to my parents' dismay, I'm going to take, 2 or 3 years and decide what I'm going to do in those 3 years. I'm not really quite sure yet, but, there's a lot going on in the world with food and food insecurities and food access. And that's something that I've found that I'm really passionate about, connecting people to where their food is coming from. And if maybe they're disconnected from that, help to improve the connection between the people and their food. And whether the connection is just knowledge based and they don't realize how much work goes into their food, I'd like to work to improve that, or whether that connection is a physical connection with their food where they don't have access to the right amount of food or the proper nutrition. That's something else that I'm really interested in. So that's kind of where my education has shifted me. And then I plan on using that even once I return to the family farm to hopefully keep accomplishing those goals.
Well, and John, that really speaks so eloquently to the land grant mission and how Michigan State, really developed as an academic institution. Back many years ago, before when trains were the primary mode of transportation, they had seed trains that would go out as extension enterprises and travel throughout the state of Michigan and talk to farmers about the quality of their seeds and hybridization of products and all of those kinds of things. And so our horticulture program and our ag programs have very, very deep roots in that work. And what you explain and describe really takes that into into a modern era where we're concerned about food deserts, and we're concerned about getting from farm and field to the dinner table, and how that works and how it works efficiently, and how we feed our society in an ecologically responsible way. And so that really is in so many ways the epitome of what started here 160 plus years ago. So that's really, really special. So John, so Caroline is a Midland Michigan student, and so is an in-stater. But you come to Michigan State from Massachusetts, at least half a country away. So what drew you to Michigan State?
So because I wanted to major in horticulture, my options are pretty limited. And then once you look at all the universities with horticulture, you have to look at the ones that are applicable to the climate that you want to return to and grow food in. So when I was looking at schools, I looked at Michigan State, University of California, Davis, University of Oregon, Corvallis, Penn State, Cornell, and Virginia Tech. I put a point on a map where I live, and I drew a 5.5 hour, 6 hour circle, and I only looked outside of that. I really wanted to take my opportunity to get away from home for a bit. And then once you align the quality of academics, the quality of athletics, and obviously finances are a big choice in a lot of students' minds. All those three things, when you average it out, Michigan State was definitely the choice for me. And that's what brought me here. And I can't say that I've regretted my decision. So it's all worked out well since then.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So Todd, as we hear from two of our great student athletes, they are they're in good company, and our graduation rates have been very strong. But share with us a little bit about how our department's graduation rates stack up this year, and how we evaluate graduation rates and success academically.
You bet. Well, that's a great question for this year and every year really. But this year, our all department graduation rates were all-time highs in three key categories. And these numbers are usually released every year in November, and they represent cohorts that are at least 6 years in the rearview mirror, because of the rates allow for a 6-year window for students to graduate. And there's two different rates we look at. We have the old standard federal graduation rate, which basically looks at all the students that you bring in on scholarship in any given year as freshmen. How many of those graduate in a 6-year period? And we look at that as a single year rate, and we look at that as a 4-year rate. And then the NCAA implemented in 2003 the graduation success rate, which allowed for transfers, which everyone kind of agreed was maybe a better assessment to gauge who among those that are staying at institutions are graduating, and so not penalizing students for needing to move around if they needed to change their mind on where they wanted to go to school. So that's the one that when we toss around the term graduation rates, a lot of times it's graduation success rate. Well, in this year's numbers, our all student athlete graduation success rate was 92%, which represented an all-time high. It just topped last year's 91%. And then our 4-year federal graduation rate, which I'll mention too on the federal rate, which we refer to as the FGR, that's also the only rate that we can compare to the general student body. Because like I said, that one's been around forever or for a long time. And that's the only one that has the same data that we can compare apples to apples, so to speak, to the general student body. Well, our 4-year federal graduation rate was a 79%, which was 3 points higher than our previous. Our single year federal graduation rate, which represented the class that entered MSU in 2013, the single year FGR or federal grad rate for that class was 87%. That mark put us 6 points higher than the general student body in the same cohort. So 81%, which 81% is nothing to sneeze at. 87% for our athletes. And then that 87% was fourth highest among our Power 5 conference peers. Among public institutions in that same group, we were number 1. The only 3 ahead of us were Northwestern, Stanford, and Notre Dame. So we were 4th behind those 3 institutions in single year FGR. So just, fantastic accomplishment, representative of so much, first and foremost, those students that we're bringing in, students like John and Caroline that are coming in and navigating and getting through, and the support they received, not only from our office, but from their coaches and our support staff within the department, our staff and faculty within the university. It's just a reflection on so many. But those numbers this year were most impressive. We had 7 sports that had a 100% graduation success rate. Men's basketball, which I believe might have been the 3rd year in a row, ice hockey, men's tennis, rowing, women's golf, softball, and volleyball. And I want to throw out a special shout out to the ice hockey program, because I think this might be the only time in this only snapshot in time we've had this. Our ice hockey program currently has a federal graduation rate of 100%, a graduation success rate of 100%, and an academic progress rate, which is another metric that the NCAA uses that measures retention and eligibility, and it's called the APR. They have an APR of 1,000. So they have 3 perfect scores on the metrics that we're kind of judged on right now. And like I said, I don't know if we've had that before previously in any of our sports. So I want to give them a little special mention there.
That's great. It really is extraordinary. And, when we use the phrase student athletes, student is the first part of that. And I think, Todd, with your work and support and the young people that our coaches recruit, we've really been very fortunate to have extraordinary young people in the program, and it's through their hard work, your hard work, that it all comes together. So as it all comes together, one's academic experience as an undergraduate ends with graduation, and this year, last year our graduations were all remote, and and I think that for the students that are graduating, really leave something to be desired. This year we've got a bit of a hybrid model, so can you share that with us?
Oh, you bet. We're very excited that the university this spring is going to be holding outdoor graduation in person. In order to accommodate that, from a spacing standpoint and an attendance standpoint, there are going to be many individual ceremonies over a 3-day period. Some of our colleges are going to have as many as 4 or 5 ceremonies to accommodate this, and they're all going to be held in large parking lots on campus, including ours at Spartan Stadium. And so other than the fact that they're outside in a parking lot and split into several different groups, all the other components are going to be the same in terms of receiving their degrees, getting their picture, having family there, all those types of things. So we're very excited to finally be back in person with that, because it's such a special event for our students and for their families and for all of us really that have the pleasure of seeing these students make their way through.
John and Caroline, I'm going to go back and put you on the spot for a moment. And as we come to the conclusion of our time together, I always try and ask an interesting, maybe a little offbeat question. So we'll start with who was did you have a favorite class that really sort of spoke to you or hit you in a unique and special way, that maybe was memorable, or that maybe you didn't think would be as interesting as it was? John, a special class that you can recall from your time so far at Michigan State?
So in the last 2 years of my career, I think most of my favorite classes have happened. And I started drifting away from the horticulture classes and taking some outside of my major, which I think made it the most interesting because it was things I was not aware of prior to. I'll go with the one that I'm in right now. I'm in a photojournalism class, and that has been really interesting to me. And I think this kind of attests to, as a student athlete, you need something outside of your student athlete name to kind of take your mind away from athletics and academics. And for me, I picked up a camera once in a while, and that was one of my things that I would do outside of it. And it helped to, hone in on certain skills with that and just teach me things that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So that, as of now, that's probably one of the classes that I would put top on my list. And it just opened my eyes to things that I wasn't aware of prior to.
Yeah, that's great. And that speaks, I think, to an important aspect of the undergraduate experience, particularly in a place as richly diverse as Michigan State, where you can have those opportunities to explore something that maybe when you enrolled as a freshman you hadn't thought of, but the opportunity comes about, and it becomes a really interesting opportunity to grow, whether that results in pursuing that as a career or a passion or what have you. It at the very least broadens and stretches you as a person and makes you think about things a little differently. So Caroline, a favorite class that you've had?
Yeah, the one that stands out to me in terms of my favorite class is my Physiology Lab that I took my sophomore year. Typically, labs can be somewhat boring, depending on which one it is, because you're doing kind of more traditional experiments. But this class, we had the chance to basically experiment on ourselves a lot. So we would do a lot of unique activities, like pricking our own fingers to get our blood and test our cholesterol levels and our blood glucose. We did a test to determine what blood type we were on ourselves, which was really cool. We did some that were a little bit weird, but they were really interesting. And I loved the way that the professor went about teaching us physiology in a unique way. We didn't just do the traditional dissections or other lab activities. So that was definitely my favorite class in my time at Michigan State.
Awesome. Well, and I'll ask the sort of the other side of that coin. What's your favorite moment, Caroline, as a student athlete on the athletic side of your life?
That's a hard one, but I think one of the most memorable moments for me was actually this season. We beat Illinois for the first time since I've been here. And that was just really special because they've been a really strong team in the Big Ten for multiple years now. And we ended up clinching the match 4-3, and just being able to kind of be there and celebrate with all of my teammates, kind of this big victory for our program. That was really special to me.
Awesome. And John?
I don't think there's a specific moment. I think it's more of a culmination of moments. And it's probably this past year where, and you can see it if you follow track and field and you look at the times that are going on in the Big Ten and in the nation. This past year, it was really uncertain whether or not we were going to be able to compete, but everyone continued to, just stick their nose in it and really train hard. Now we're seeing this culmination of all the efforts when they might have been just for nothing. But now this is probably the best that I've seen our team in a long time. And it's just really fun to watch us go out and have a workout and have it. We're running so much faster than we've ever been running and throwing farther than we've thrown. And just seeing everyone there at the same time, getting to the point that we've all been working towards is really special to watch, especially because we weren't sure if we'd be able to do it this year.
No, that is really special. And with that, I'll thank you so much for joining us today and sharing some of your very valuable pre-examination time. We've got this is a very tight time of year, and so Caroline, Szabo, John, Gove, thank you so much for being part of our program today, and of course Todd Edwards, the Executive Director of Student Athlete Support Services, who does so much of the behind the scenes work to make sure that our student athletes have opportunities academically, and then as they pursue their careers and their life pursuit. And the extraordinary work that we do at the Smith Center is just very very top drawer, and it wouldn't happen, Todd, without you. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.